traveling, you have to be shallow as fuck, but at home it's different.
Sorry?
When you're traveling, you can be shallow as fuck. When it's at home, it's different. I would actually probably read the more finer details.
Oh no, I was wondering how you're defining the search parameters. But tell me later.
Maybe if there's dead air. I'll certainly do that once we're at a different point in time. We were just talking about Tinder search parameters. Welcome back to Johor Bahru, where we will focus back on Scrabble as opposed to Tinder. Two very different games with two very different forms of strategy. My name is Jesse Matthews, here with Chris May as we look at Mark Nyman and Jesse Day on Table 1. Both of them responsible for holding Nigel back from running away at this tournament at several points. Now finally playing each other on Table 1. They've both only played twice against each other in this tournament so far. Yeah. They're level at 1 win apiece, so no clear indication as to who's got the better who so far.
Yeah, it's a miracle they're both at the table ready to play, although it is about 10 minutes after all the other boards have kicked off.
It's about right, given who they are.
These are probably the two slowest players in the room in terms of changeover between rounds. They will not be hurried, even if they know they're both lagging way behind the other boards. They just stroll slowly into the room, pick up their stuff, move slowly over to the next table.
Might even catch a nap at some point in the middle of this game. Be a bet, see who runs out of time first.
Well, that sort of chilled, unflappable temperament is actually an asset over the board once the games are underway. Lovely place spotted while I was kibitzing the other boards waiting for this one to get underway. Marlon Prudencio responds to Peter Armstrong's opening play of Cowbane with a natural super sex.
Wow.
Very nice.
Keeping to a theme here.
And David Eldar has been informed that his presence is politely requested in the commentary booth should he finish early against Nigel.
Which is very possible. I would imagine they will finish before Mark and Jesse, given the lack of speed at which both of them play.
I think Dave's coming down from his caffeine high just in time to play Nigel. Could be upsetting. So I've got some tiles on racks here. 2 A's. That makes AA, which is a word.
Excellent observation.
So we're going to... Mark's already made his first play. We don't know what it was yet. He had 6 vowels on his rack. And he changed A-O-U-U, keeping A-E-R. What do you think of the A-E-R keep as opposed to just the E-R keep? I actually think that's a bit old school, and probably the ER keep is better.
Yeah, I can't remember the Super League values off the top of my head, but I am in favor of ER as well.
David Eldar has observed a couple of times that it's generally better to keep consonant-heavy imbalances on an early change, and I think I agree with that.
I can't find myself disagreeing, certainly. Chine,
so,
nice here.
Yep, standard play for Jesse. In case anyone's under any doubt, that only backhooks with an E, and that's conveniently in his leave, so really, really nice positionally as well for Jesse. Nice way to start.
And it's odd, you would think that this is related to all the other genie words, but it's actually not. This one is an Afrikaans word that just stands on its own, and then when it hooks with the E, genie, of course, goes back to being one of many forms of genie.
Looks like Mark didn't take too long there with oof. Foo also available in your 3, but probably lacks likes the B column to be open, keeping the R in hand. So it looks like a fairly uncontroversial play, I would think. Didn't have the L there for C floor. Slightly irksome pickup for Jesse. He won't love that. You can play Query at B9, but probably won't because it takes D, R, and S as back hooks.
Ooh, and Mark with a very lovely rack.
Really nice rack for Mark, yeah. It's a great
Not only
pickup.
a bonus, but something that's going to score pretty high.
How's Query lined up? I'd personally be wanting to have a look at some other options before taking that one seriously. Even just R-O-U-E over the top of Gin looks a little bit cagier and perhaps a little bit more plausible to me. But those are two very, very different types of play with different strategic thinking behind them, so let's go in the chat. It's actually quite an interesting move. He can make plays that point in very different directions, and I'm always interested by those sorts of plays.
Looks like he is committing to Kuri.
That's a gutsy play.
Yeah.
And I feel he's going to regret it because Mark's going to score a ton of points. So I'll leave the high scoring play unset for a while. But Mark is not short of choices here. So let's hope Jesse gets something decent to punch back with. I think Corey may have been a little bit too bold for my tastes there. Oh, but look at this. Phantom on the rack.
Very nice.
Jason asks what were other options besides Curry. Well, I was looking hard at R-O-U-E over the top of Gin. And I feel like even more cheap balancing plays might have been conceivable, like E-U-O-I for only 4 points off the central H, or other plays involving hooking his E onto Gin. All of those plays give counterplay to Nigel, but none so much as Curry. Curry outscores them.
That's the main thing going for it, and correct me for those of you watching if I am wrong, but from what I have gathered of Jesse's early strategy in situations like these, he'll usually opt for the points in cases where you're getting something back no matter what. Or if this was suggested actually in the pool there.
Keeping OU. Not a bad play.
Crawls goes down.
Yep. So Mark
Nice
takes
play.
all the points available to him, and I think that leaves Jesse with just the one place to play Phantom.
Yep.
So we can expect to see that go down.
Not going to be closed anytime soon, this board.
Yeah, I'm often in favour of a point strategy as well. It's just been advocated by, is that Joel Sherman?
Yeah, Ice 9 is Joel.
Yeah. I just would have been a bit wary in this particular scenario, merely because of Mark's choice of OOF over FOO. To me, that suggests angling for bingo.
Yeah, and then Joel suggested that Query and Ginny with the two E's might have been a bit safer and still scored decently if you wanted safer, and I'm inclined to agree with that.
Me too. I still don't really see what was wrong with RUE, but maybe I just too wedded to that.
And it looks like Jesse put down quite a few tiles. I think he did put down Phantom.
Let's hope he put down 7.
Yeah. There we go. Nice play. Jason in the feed gives feedback regarding Rue, saying it's 11 fewer points and CIO leave is possibly worse than keeping just an O, as a suggestion for why he prefers Query. Jesse with a bit of a clunky draw after this. A few letters off of Squill G.
Yeah, sadly, it doesn't look like there's anything decent at 11A through that loose U, which is a bit of a shame for him. Then I'll mark the tiles to do something decent in the O column if he chooses to, and I think that he probably ought to, rather than having to save the line.
Well, then he's got Avise as a possible option here.
Exactly, yeah. Just trying to figure out whether it's worth him holding the S and thinking that he might get the line next turn.
He'd need a conceivable play that's worth passing on that one for, and
Yeah.
looking now to see if I see anything like that.
Nothing really jumps out that uses the V well.
No, there's Aviate or something similar to that T, but it's still not really a lot of points compared to Avise to make it worth it.
Yeah. And I think it hasn't taken him long to agree with us and go for the points. I think that's probably right, and at the very least sensible. So Jesse, facing a slightly awkward mid-game position here. Bingo potential, especially with that N floating, but he's going to break up the ING possibility to play his Q off 32 points, and I think we can't really argue with that. Ideally, he'd have used that U and got rid of some of his E's, but the tiles just went on the rack to do it, so that may have been a forced play.
Greetings to Nick Ivanovsky of Australia. Welcome to the chat. Thank you for watching today. Glad to have you faithfully following along, and now you can add your own insight as you please. It's a pretty exciting day for us watching in the booth here. Some fantastic play, some interesting twists, and no shortage of controversial moves, which is what we could, that's all we could hope for, really.
Yeah, we couldn't have asked for more today. Some really tight games, some really interesting choices, and some great commentary, I think, from the chat as well. Really helping us out and do our job.
Makes it easier for us when you guys are chiming in, even when you're saying y'all are nuts.
Especially when we don't have Quackle to consult the candidate moves.
Yeah, that's really been completely by choice. I think it's, I'll speak for mostly myself, but maybe a little bit for you. It's a nice challenge to be able to consistently try and find the moves along with him, and in that sense, it's a little more real as we argue for each mover against them.
It means we're approaching the position, trying to break it down the same way that the players are, basically. It can be really artificial trying to follow a game when you have Quackle open and you're just generating the static analysis every turn. You're learning a lot less by doing that.
Yeah.
So Mark, this is one of those interesting positions where the shared resource, the board, is kind of conducive to high scores, but you yourself can't really take advantage of that. You have mostly low scoring options, and I really feel like a play on row 6 is indicated here, knocking out a lot of bingo lines, as well as the highest scoring hotspot that can be used for Z and what have you. So something like Aloed, Aloed, or perhaps there's a move that keeps it better, 2-tile leave.
Yeah, because the problem with things like Odia is AOL. I don't remember the exact number for the Super League, but it's certainly not a good one, because I would be tempted to very quickly drop Odia, but it certainly isn't the most ideal as far as leagues go.
Yeah, I think I'd play Aloed without much hesitation over Odia.
Yeah, OA not ideal either, but with the L, certainly worse. And Alu doesn't quite fit there due to Ot, otherwise I would be looking at that instead.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that was a word. That would be the ideal solution for this rack.
And due to the X being out and other higher counters, Alu and Pel and Na is not ideal here either. There Aloed is lined up, considering that as a move.
And, well, I don't know, my impression of almost every top player's psychology is that once they've lined up letters on their rack, that's what they end up putting on the board. Almost all the time.
This is not an Odeal rack. Hello, Cesar. Welcome to the chat. And yeah, Nick, it is a shame that Alu just fits under there and unfortunately offers too much back to be the candidate option. It's also worth looking briefly at Rodeo with the R and Courier, but it doesn't take out that threatening A hotspot in Phantoms. Otherwise, I would look at something like Rodeo a little bit more strongly. So a load goes down.
And I think that's exactly the correct play, despite the somewhat dodgy leave. You know, one thing that can be said for AO in the leave is that they are scoring consonants. They are better scoring scoring vowels than an E. And this is a board that actually works well for scoring vowels at the moment. Row 5 is good for your A, and row 14, if you pick up a high scoring consonant, is good for both A and O. Jesse Day's rack, kind of a little bit of the same phenomenon. It's a kind of scoring board, but there aren't the scoring tiles on the rack to capitalise. He needs an R somewhere different on the board to get General down as a bingo. Don't have to make any other aids that rack. Das ausgesehen. Scoring vowel is a thing, Jason Katz-Brown. Ask Kenji. Or perhaps I should clarify, I think his concept is of vowels that you keep in scoring leaves. And A and O are the two best.
Mark's pulled a Z after that play. Nice for scoring.
So this is developing into a pretty intriguing tussle now. It's going to be a close middle game. And Jesse's sort of got one of those racks where your attention kind of slides off the position after a few seconds because you just don't want to have to commit to one.
You really don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
It is. I was looking at Jesse's rack and thinking, I wonder if non-league is a word with a U instead of one of those E's, and it is, because I was looking through the ON for a double, but that's just me dreaming again about words that are not quite there.
So I think the optimal league they could go for is actually just EN here, playing off the tiles of Eagle. But really, this is a bit of a tricky spot. nothing really works on row 5, and he's played GRE, keeping lane. There's nothing too much wrong with that leave, but it can develop into a number of quite anemic racks where you can't do very much. So a slight risk there, keeping ALNE, and I actually think ANGE is a slightly better leave. So possibly there was a case for playing off the 3 tiles EEL somewhere there. Nonetheless, what's done is done. Mark Nyman's got a fairly dynamic looking rack, which should be handy in this position.
And Jesse has what looks like first glance like a bad rack, but he has Nurula as a bonus.
And a couple of places to play it. So
Mark is close to Ozeana's, but as an L instead of an N. Doesn't quite have Zonule or anything similar to the ON and Phantom and a load, so not straightforward in terms of his scoring options here.
Yeah, less straightforward than one might have expected. Nowhere good for Sleazo.
Yeah, Joel, certainly this is one of those situations where, for once, drawing 2 U's and not even just one is fantastic.
So again, we're kind of coming up a little bit short on really good plays for Mark that capitalise on the Z scoring power while also ensuring one of the best rack leaves that he could get, which would be AELS really, using the tiles from Azo or Zoa. I guess he could just dump Azo on row 11. Allows a little bit of scoring counterplay, which isn't ideal. But maybe the leave is so strong that that doesn't matter. What do you guys think? Maybe zonal? Maybe azonal.
Azonal I was thinking of as well. Zunal is certainly not the one you want to play due to its volatility.
Zonal, it's an imbalanced leave, but it does set up the A front hook.
And yes, SR, it's good in both books.
I don't know, maybe there is a case for zonal. I'm not fully enamored of it. Zoa N2 has to be a possible play.
Yep. I like that a little bit more than zonal or anything in that particular area, just because Zoa doesn't offer anything so straightforward back.
No, I think it just does the basics really well, doesn't it? Gets you to a 30-point lead with a very good leave, and it's about as much as you can hope for in this position. There's also Azo at 9H. Again, that might just give a little bit too much away in terms of counterplay.
Sleazo actually makes me think of a story. There's a North American expert, his name's Dave Koenig. I got to play him 3 times in a tournament once in Albany, New York. And in one of the games where I beat him, he played sleazed as an attempted double-double, and at that time it was not a valid word. And it just looked really funny and challenged it off. Ended up winning that game, and it's funny. It's come up years later now, 6 or 7 years after it's finally been added to the book. So Sleazo and Sleazed are together in my mind forever.
So Mark plays Zoa
And Nurula comes down after.
Yep, very solid play from Mark there. Just as we said, doing the basics, and Jesse chooses the most defensive position for Nurula. Had he played it at 14F, would have created actually a pretty big bingo alley for 7 because it hooks with ER and S. The 11D placement similarly left those 3 hooks available on a double word score.
They all have different issues of volatility as well in terms of bigger letters hooking on, because the X actually is a huge concern in any of the positions, no matter where you look. If you look at the 14F placement, the X could go underneath the double letter score to the triple for a devastating score. It still can in the position he's put it in now. It also, it's not quite so straightforward devastating from 11D if the opponent has the X there, but all of them in some way offer some form of volatility that is super dangerous, more so than usual. So it looks like he's decided this one is the least devastating, because here really it's just the X that's not so good.
Yeah, and I was sort of just expecting him to play it on row 14, but I'm I think I'm 1 over by his choice. Row 9. Meanwhile, Mark, very easy bingo there. And he too chooses chooses to avoid row 14, but in this case it's actually taking the biggest score. Can make some interesting words with Jesse Day's rack. But he's facing a board that could get pretty tight pretty fast if a short play gets made at 14F. And I think he's going to play on row 5.
Yeah, Baft is a nice play.
Yeah. Retakes the leads, doesn't give anything away, actually kind of seals off the top left.
Well, a Baft
apart from
is
the
still
A-hook,
possible,
yeah.
But with only the blank in the pool, the blank would have to be an A, and that's fairly unlikely, so it is as good as blocked.
Oh, there's no A out?
There's no A's left.
Wow.
They're all on the board.
So it's, I wonder if he very probably knew that when he played it. So we're waiting for fresh rack information. It'll be Mark to play with only a 7-point deficit.
Jesse has shindig
Wow,
and dishing.
that is a great draw. And Hidings, right, which plays it on row 12.
Nice options for Jesse, assuming the area is not taken out.
Well, that's a real gift, isn't it?
And Mark, we're waiting for 2 more tiles in his rack, but given what he has, probably not going to bonus this turn. Oh, GT, yeah.
Was waiting for Cowbell to show up, but it didn't. So, this is, it's all too easy to evaluate Mark's plays with knowledge of Jesse's rack, and we shouldn't try and do that. From his point of view, he actually probably quite likes his chances.
Yeah.
He's pulled the front blank, and he's only 7 points down, and in that sort of position, you generally think you're favourite to win. And he'll be looking at plays to get the most bingo-y lead possible. Chucking out a few unwanted consonants. Worth noting that he's got the W again to hook onto EE, and he missed that earlier in the day.
Yes.
I told him about it after the game, so he probably won't be missing it twice. Not that it's particularly in the picture this turn. I think what is in the picture this turn is a 2-tile play around the O that's sitting at B10. Whether that be cow or something else, I'm not quite sure.
So EE does not take the S at the end, it's just EAM. EA is the one of the 2 columns in the E words that takes the S at the end.
And guys, let's not jump the gun on what Jesse will do. He's going to be making his evaluation positionally quite strongly based on what Mark does, and if we see something like a 2-tile play, he may want to take out the best bingo line at the expense of some score to himself. I'm actually not seeing, it's a hard play for Mark, this. I've suggested cow at 10A without very much enthusiasm. GLRT blank, could get choky. You could play something like gifts.
Yeah, I saw that too, but with CWLR blank. And I think I prefer, not by much, but I prefer cow through the O and courier. Just because GRT or LRT are a little bit better, I think, than what happens after gifts, but only a little.
And you'd have to think that even an exchange is a plausible play here. For keeping CR blank, or maybe TR blank, or just R blank, given that the C might interfere with your bingos on this board.
James suggests 2 at 3 L's a setup. Great suggestion, and yeah, there it goes. Mark is putting that down to set up another lane. Jesse's going to pretty quickly play a bonus here that is unblocked. I'm guessing dishing, yeah, an Estival, or hiding.
Hidings.
Oh, he's playing hidings the bottom row. Okay.
Yeah. I'm a little bit surprised he's played that so quickly. I honestly thought that was worth a bit of time. You know, that means he hasn't actually done any range finding based on Mark's play. And I don't know, I think Son was probably justified. He may well have ended up playing the same play.
For the production team, if we could get a look at the rack camera from Jesse's side so we can see how much time is left on their clocks, that would be great. Thank you.
But now Mark drawing with CGRL, probably still at least another turn from his bingo, and he badly needs to turn that around. Oh, and wow,
Jesse's got an extra play for 50-something points.
Yeah, Jesse's got almost a really dream pick-up to defend an 80-point lead on this board. That's absolutely lovely drawing. And Mark is choked, which was the risk of a two-tile play, especially one that kept the C and the G together. And I was going to say that's one of the real drawbacks of TWO. Sure, it creates a line, but you have to be able to use the line. And he was at least a turn from doing so, if not 2 turns we played.
And actually, part of the reason for Jesse playing hidings, and that was my suspicion now that we can see the board and the clock, is Jesse is fast playing Mark, given that hidings is as good a play as any. So I think, perfectly reasonable.
I think that makes a difference to my criticism. Hidings at speed is very solid when there's such a time imbalance. Anyone ever seen Jesse Day 14 minutes ahead on time?
That doesn't happen often. It does not happen often. But he knows that's part of the strategy with playing Mark, is you got to use his time to your advantage. Jan's causing some trouble in the chat as he is implying that I am American. This is certainly not the case.
I don't want to get involved. As long as people don't think I'm a New Zealander, I'm fine.
I don't think there's any danger of that.
So Mark is sort of reaping what he sowed on the last turn. Of course it was a bad draw for him, but he now has the same problem but worse. And down to under 2 minutes of time, he could play COR at 10A. It's really desperation because it just doesn't have any scoring power, and Jesse's going to go. Even with an average rack, Jesse's going to go 100 up against that, and with the rack that he actually has, he's going to go well over 100 up. Still 13 in the pool, and I would have been tempted to change and see if I could grab that X for myself and end with a big X like bingo, but Mark hasn't done so. Might be a bit feeling a bit pressured, and he's played COR, really the only thing that anyone was going to see that was worth putting tiles down for, and this game is going to be sealed by Jesse's death blow on the next turn.
Yep. And he's already played it. We're just waiting for the confirmation that Ox was in fact what he played. And we're waiting for the racks. I guess they're just figuring out what's happening over there. Oh, Deck's interesting. He's playing Dex on top of hidings, it looks like.
That's to knock out a bingo line.
Right.
I think that's a very smart play.
Yeah.
Mark's only possibility of winning was a double bingo, and he needed that row 12 to do it. So Jesse fast playing, but doing it with some finesse there. Poor old Mark. These two-tailed fishes, I think he should have exchanged 2 turns ago. Hindsight's great, but I think TWO was a bit too optimistic with the CGLR combination hanging back on the rack. And all Mark can really do now is play equity and try and get this game done and dusted without a time penalty.
Hello to Clayton Day, that is Jesse Day's dad, watching from Monaco in Europe. Thanks for joining along with us. Obviously happy to see that his son is in great shape here to win this game.
Absolutely, and he's played a good one.
Mr. Day, I am surprised that you haven't already flown in to see us in Johor. The last several times, both your son and myself have been in the same room for an event such as his graduation or other major tournaments. You've randomly flown in for the day and then left the next day, so there's still a few days left for you to come. Book a flight, come join us in Johor, have dinner. We'd love to see you.
So Jesse's now taking a little bit of time, and I expect he's trying to decide whether it's worth his while to block any possible consolation bingo that Mark might have. Not the easiest line to block, and would have been a very threatening line if Mark had been a little bit closer on the scoreboard. Taking no prisoners, he decides to block it, leaving 1 tile in the bag. So a totally safe play. Mark might be tempted to just play KI here and set up the blank hook on the top row.
Yeah, there are no S's left, so that would be...
but it's very blockable.
Yeah, all too blockable.
So I think
he's just going for Milia and Abath to score.
Cutting his losses, but if he plays that, isn't he going to get hit with erodible? So he's got to watch that. That's what time pressure will do.
And
he's just conceded a massive spread that he didn't need to.
Well, let's see if he's hit the clock. We can't tell because the quack move hasn't been committed yet.
And well, Mark's spread is lagging far behind the other top 10, and things like this unnecessary exchange at the end of the game kind of help tell you why, right?
Yeah, and he's trying to hit the clock, so Jesse's going to go out with erodible to run up the score even more. Nice little anagram that's not quite so commonly played is Leeboard out of that set. Erodible, the important one here.
So, blowout in the end.
Huge game for my Scrabble hermano, Jesse Day. There are some bad hombres out there. Jesse Day is one of them. So with that win, he's going to be up to 19 now. And we, of course, don't know what was happening in the game with Nigel and Eldar. But if Nigel wins, he's in first with a big spread advantage. And if he loses, then that will put Jesse as the sole person at 19 wins.
So I'm actually not sure if we know what the pairing in the next game will be. So I'm just going to have a look at the notice board and see if we can give it to you before signing off.
Alright, sounds good. posting to Twitter, as we all come to expect when he's at a tournament. It's usually a little brief summary of his game to dictate what the tone was, plus the photo. Well, I imagine if you go and check Twitter right now, if you're following him on there, his handle is Magrathian. I think I'm saying it right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, Magrathian or something like this. You can see his game photos on there, along with his own commentary on his play. Having a wonderful tournament here. Nick, is his full Twitter handle Magrathia Zaphod? Maybe I'm just thinking of his ISE handle as Magrathian, and then I believe on Aerolith he's also Magrathian. Okay. Magrathia Zaphod is his full Twitter handle. Alright, so that would be where you follow him. Thank you for that correction, guys. Chris is coming back into the room with some news.
Next up on table 1, it will be Jesse Day versus Nigel Richards. And I can also tell you that David Eldar has won his match with Nigel.
Wow,
so I think
Jesse's the lone 19?
Yeah, and I think there's a very strong chasing pack on 18 now, so really tight tournament.
Wow, so Jesse Day is the lone person at 19 wins?
Well, no, I think that's correct. Yeah, it must be.
Because Mark just lost and Nigel just lost.
Yeah.
So Nigel's the high spread at 18 wins.
And
Mark's the lower one.
Saidu also won his game.
So David Eldar and Saidu are all at 18 wins. There's 4 at 18. Jesse's at 19.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Pretty cool.
So with that, we will sign off here from Johor Bahru. Back in about 15 minutes for the next round. That'll be Nigel Richards and Jesse Day. We'll let you know if that changes. Oliver's written that it had Jesse versus Saidu on board 1, but we will double check that and see. Until then, we're going to sign off. We'll be back here very shortly, about 15 minutes. Thank you.